Evans.
Here.
Foodie. Here. Justman.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Rungy.
Here. First item of business is agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as printed? Motion by Foodie. Second by Chapman. Any further discussion, questions, or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approved minutes of previous meetings. Is there a motion to that effect?
So, second.
Motion by Justin, second by Rungy. Any further discussion on those? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approved minutes of intervening meetings. Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Motion by Rungy, or motion by Foodie, second by Chapman. Any further discussion, questions or comments? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public comments regarding agenda items. We have anybody here other than school board members tonight who have a slot on the agenda? Mr. Offel, what can we do for you tonight?
I was wondering if we could have a moment of silence for our former city attorney who passed away.
Welcome that. Dan Klosner, if most of you people don't know, he was finished his career as a judge, but he did start out his law practice in Juneau in 1978. Was elected judge in 1984. His partner, Joe Shasha, continued the practice all these years. And, Mr. Klosner was a Vietnam veteran that was severely wounded in the service, but he's always been a guy that always had a smile on his face and was always a great guy to be around. He was definitely credit to our community. High school graduate of Juneau High School, and I think he passed away at age 77. I think his birthday would be, he'd be turning 78 this next week. So he's gone through a lot of trials with health over the final years of his life, and he's been on hospice care for a little over a year, I think. You wouldn't know it. You went to visit him, you would know that he was on hospice care. He always said that he was going to beat it. Told my wife, I'll even take a Lions calendar. That's how strong I feel that I'm going to beat this. So, that's the kind of guy he was. So at this time, would you please join us in bowing our heads for a moment of silence for Dan Klosner. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Offelper, for bringing that suggestion to the table. Anything else you'd like to address tonight?
No.
Okay. Next, we have Todd Grieco from Dodgeman School District to talk about the upcoming agenda, or upcoming referendum, excuse me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Todd Greco, District Administrator with the Dodgeman School District, joined by Jen Johnson, she's our Director of Student Services, Special Education and Pupil Services. Also have a couple of board members, Bruce Hans with us, and Melissa Owen. So thank you all for being here as well. Obviously, I've been here a number of times, kind of shared with you the survey data and likelihood of moving forward with an operational referendum. Obviously, the board has elected to do so. And so tonight, I just wanted to provide a little bit more information of what that referendum is going to look like, as well as some rationale around that. Everybody should have a handout in front of you, which mirrors exactly what I have up here. We'll call this page 1. Page number 2 will be the one with the charts and graphs. And so I'll go through each one of those with you. You also should have a business card, and on that business card kind of gives you a couple little details about the referendum, as well as a QR code, so that you can access our website, Dodgeman Exchange, where all the information is right there. So if there are some questions tonight that I don't answer, or you think about it when I leave, think about it next week, someone in the community asks you a question, direct them to Dodgeman Exchange. And we have a few copies as well that we can leave. You can pop in or want to take them with them and hand them out. So starting here on page 1, we have the ballot question. This is the question that people will see on the ballot on April 7th. The first part of that is very legal in nature. The bolded section is the part that I would want to draw your attention to, in particular, the funds, what we will be using them for, which is to maintain class sizes at the elementary school in particular. We want to sustain our elective classes and advanced classes at the secondary level, as well as continue middle school athletics. We're trying to be as specific as possible with that, and the intention being for operational purposes. One of the questions I've heard a number of times from members of the community is, we passed a referendum in 2021. What did you do with that money? If you knew that you were going to have some operational concerns, why didn't you hang on to some of that money and plan a little bit better? And the response to that is that was a capital referendum at that time. And so in 2021, we passed a capital referendum, which is specifically designed to address building and facility needs. And so that's what we did with those funds. And so did some enhancements to the building, STEAM addition, so forth, CTE, those kinds of things, and some playgrounds, various other things that were done at that time. This funding ask is for operational purposes only. And so those are things that are listed here. What is an operational referendum for? Day-to-day operations, utilities, maintenance, and of course, wages to maintain competitive in the marketplace. Just like you, schools are not immune as much as we wish that they were. Schools are not immune to some of the inflationary challenges that all of us in this room have faced, and we continue to experience that just the same. And so we're kind of in that position now to ask for some additional funds. Again, class sizes, electives, and advanced courses, and then of course middle school athletics. We really want to, this is kind of the why behind some of these things. We want to make sure that we're giving our students a competitive edge in a world economy that continues to evolve. We have students that are dreaming of going to college, and we have other students that are dreaming of going into the workforce right away after high school, and who knows what their path is going to be. Any of them, whether they go to college, some of them might end up coming back to the workforce and vice versa. And we really believe strongly in the programs that we offer our students. We have great advanced programming if that's their desire to go into post-secondary education, and we have excellent facilities to help students to prepare for the workforce if that's what they decide to go into as well. And so we really want to give them a very well-balanced and well-rounded education. We know that at the middle school level, students that are participating in athletics are more likely to be engaged as they're getting prepared and moving to that next level as they're about to go into high school, and that's a sensitive age, and we know that the athletics are certainly something that's really important. We want to continue to provide those opportunities for our students. And of course, at the elementary level, I think everybody knows and understands the value of having small instructional groups to provide individualized instruction where it's needed most as students are just starting out on their educational journey, and giving them that good foundational base with some of those core instructional skills that they need to be successful. And so that kind of provides that. Let's move into page number 2. Page number 2 kind of talks about the tax levy in particular, and this is where we're kind of providing a little bit of rationale around how we kind of determined to go to an operational referendum. If you look at that chart, you'll see that all the way at the far end, 2025, far right, you have total property value across the district of $640 million. That's current right now. I'm sorry, I misspoke, $620 million. $620 million, and our tax levy this year that we asked from local taxpayers was $3.9 million for a mill rate of 6.3%. So now, obviously, a number of taxpayers have been frustrated with the tax bills increasing. Our tax rate increased 9% this year. Now, there may be some people in this room that are saying, well, my taxes went up more than that. And I'm not here to argue that point. If your individual tax bill went up more than that, that's true. That did happen. But then that means there's somebody else on the other side of that coin that their taxes went down. But as a collective total on the entire school district property value of $620 million, that rate increased 9% as an average across the whole thing. So I want to draw your attention then to 2005, the far left side of that graph. The property value at that time in our entire school district was $280 million. Our tax levy was $3.5 million, and we had a levy of 12.45, or a mill rate, I'm sorry, of 12.45. I draw your attention to that because over the 20-year period, there's been an increase in property value of $340 million, but the local tax collected on that is $400,000. For an additional $340 million, Dodgeland is bringing in $400,000 more than it did in 2005. The highest tax in that 20-year span happened in 2010. So now draw your attention to the middle part of that chart, where the property value is $330 million. We collected $4.3 million in a tax levy with a mill rate of 13.42. And so this current referendum, if it does pass, and it would increase our levy, of course, from 3.9 to 4.6, which would be $300,000 more than the highest rate over the last 20 years, which was in 2010. If you look at that chart, you can see it's largely flat over the 20-year span. It's largely flat, just popping up above and below $4 million. And so really that's the rationale around why we're kind of going to that. Draw your attention then to chart number 2, which is private school vouchers. You'll notice on the far left, 2017, 2018, we had expenses of about $41,000 roughly in private school vouchers. As you start to see moving from left to right, that number escalates to the current school year. Private school vouchers are just shy of $445,000. Part of the reason for the 9% increase we talked about and the levy increasing slightly this year over last year is due to the increase in private school vouchers. And so essentially what happens under state law, the way the private school vouchers operate is the school district operates as a pass-through entity. So when you look at your tax bill, you see X, but embedded within that tax rate, you see Dodgeland Schools, X. Embedded within that are costs for private school tuition. And so the money comes into Dodgeland, and then Dodgeland has to send it back out in the form of private school vouchers. And you'll see that has escalated quite a bit over the last several years. A couple reasons for that. Number one, there's been more voucher schools that have applied to the program. And so more voucher schools are coming online. And number two, more families are qualifying for vouchers. And within the next couple of years, income limits will be ultimately removed from the entire voucher program. And so we have probably in this state around 65,000 students probably participating collectively in the voucher school program. If you go back probably even 10 years, we maybe had 3,000 total students statewide in the program. The voucher school program was initially designed to support students in Milwaukee in particular that were in a certain income limit in poverty. And if a family made more than a certain income limit, they did not qualify for that. And slowly over time, those income thresholds have increased, and to the point that eventually within the next couple of years, the plan is to remove them completely. And so there's just more ability for folks to take advantage of that and students take advantage of that. That equates to about 17% of our tax levy here that comes in to the Dodgeland School District goes right back out in private school tuition. So I'm not here to say anything negative about private school. If we had an opportunity to collect some funds in a different way, we would do that just the same. But it is certainly an extra stressor on providing the education that we expect as a community and what our students ultimately deserve. And so I think with that, I don't know if there's anything that I missed that I should touch on, anything anybody else wanted to comment on, or otherwise I'd be happy to entertain any questions from any of you.
Any questions?
So what you're saying here is from now all the way back to 2005 with the 400,000 going for vouchers, you don't have any more income now than you did 20 years ago?
Exactly. I mean, you essentially could look at it that way. Yeah, if you were to take that out, I mean, it's basically about the same. Yes. Just on the local tax levy.
Right.
And really what's kind of happened since 1993, and all of you are kind of in the same boat. You don't have the ability to set your levy. You have the ability to set your levy here at the city council within certain parameters, right? You can only go up to a certain amount within that levy. Prior to 1993, school boards, city government could set your levy as you were elected to do as you saw fit. That would be the ultimate local control power, right? Local control ultimately was removed in 1993, and it was mandated by the state to fall within a certain revenue cap, and we have to operate within that revenue cap, just like you do. And so over time, the state government pours money into that revenue cap, and then the remaining balance is provided by the local taxpayer. And slowly over time, that has kind of shifted more and more to the local taxpayer, which is why you're starting to see this right here starting to escalate. And so as funds have kind of come out, have not been put into the system, it has been a struggle. And so yes, we're operating essentially at the same tax levy amount that we were in 2005.
With the school choice being in place now, what's the ratio or how many students we have leaving the district?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that numbers wise, I would say we're probably sending out, I'll say somewhere in the ballpark of maybe 140 students are choicing out. Now that's not private school vouchers. That would be public school open enrollment. So that's a different program altogether. Public school open enrollment, I would say we're probably somewhere in the ballpark of maybe 140 that are going out, and maybe another 132 coming in. Right. So at the interchange, we're losing a few students. How that equals financially, probably about maybe 1.5 million or so is probably going out. We're paying to other school districts, but then we're receiving probably about 1.3 million coming in, and we're probably losing between that interchange around 200,000 just in the private school. In the open enrollment program. So this is vouchers only. I don't have that direct question on the chart. Now, it certainly does have an impact. I think we've seen that previous to probably about 2021, that interchange actually had us in a positive, and we were probably positive by maybe 20 students at that. It was a pretty sizable. If you look at a graph, you would see it kind of going like this, and it was an increase. That was a positive thing. You always want to be on the positive side of having students come in. Around 2021, at about the time that we actually ironically passed the last referendum, which was for capital purposes only, was about the time we started to need to make operational decisions to start to reduce our budget. And so in that year, the budget was reduced by right around maybe $100,000, I would say. The next year, moving forward, reduced maybe another 100, and then start to escalate from there. 400,000 the year after that, and now we're up to about 800,000 in this school year that we reduced our budget year over year. That has a direct impact on students. All of these things that we're listing here, advanced programming, opportunities to participate in elective programs that give you real world skills, middle school athletics, small class sizes at the elementary. These are decisions ultimately that as we start to reduce our budget and escalate those kinds of things or reduce things, families make decisions to go to other places. And that's probably the reason why we're already starting to experience a little bit of a loss there. It's not sizable enough that it's impacting us to large extent. We at least want to break even. But obviously, if we were previously probably at plus 20, even just, or plus 30, even just 10 years ago or 6 years ago, to now be maybe minus 10, that's a swing of like 40 students. That's a lot. And so from a financial perspective, that's a lot. And that has impacts. And we don't want that to continue. It's not as simple as just saying, well, keep cutting your budget. If we continue to cut our budget operates in a downward spiral. As I said earlier, it's a shared cost between the state government and local taxpayers. If we ultimately have to make budgetary reductions and our board is forced to make some really, really hard decisions that they're not going to want to make, and I'm not going to want to recommend that they make, what's ultimately going to happen is we'll make those budgetary reductions, and then the next year, you're going to be operating with a budget deficit again because the state takes their portion of that cut. So they're not going to continue to provide the money that they did in the year prior because they're going to say your expenditures went down. So we're going to take our portion of those expenditures as well. And so then we'll operate in a budget deficit again. So this year's budget deficit is around 300,000 estimated. And over the next 4 years, our budget deficit is estimated to be $2.7 million, which is why we're asking for 700. So obviously over the next 4 years, we would ask for 2.8 million total, even though our budget deficit is expected to be 2.7. It gives us about $100,000 cushion, which I would be willing to bet we're going to soak up very easily with something that's going to break. We'll have a maintenance thing that's going to happen, right? There will be various costs that would be associated that will need that extra $100,000. So that's how we settled on the settlement. So,
Inflation is figured into that?
yes, we're estimating 3%. We're estimating 8%, very, very conservative 3% estimate on that. If it's higher than that, yeah, our $2.7 million budget deficit estimate easily goes over 3 million at that point. But we are estimating, 3%.
I know as being our neighboring school district, Eustisford has got some tough decisions to make. We would have no problem accommodating their class sizes if we would be offered the opportunity.
Yeah, great question. Appreciate the question. I think if it was one of those things where if we have the capacity to bring in the entire school district there without any trouble. However, that's a decision ultimately that will be made by both of the boards if they ultimately were to go to become a consolidated district. Right now, there are other districts that have been asked to see if they would be interested in being a consolidation partner with Eustisford in their financial situation. And those districts are Dodgeland, Horicon, and Mayville. On March 2nd, all those boards are going to come together and have a meeting, just an informational meeting to discuss what does this look like, what are the procedures and so forth, and things to consider. I think, one of the things I advise our board is, it's not just a financial decision. Certainly that's an element of it, but we also want to make sure that we are doing right by kids because that's what we're about. We're kids first, and that's our charge, and that's our mission, and that's always number one. And so what are going to be the opportunities and the benefit to us if we were to do a consolidated district? In the end, if we did a consolidated district and passed the referendum, a couple things. First of all, we don't fully know what it will look like if it's a benefit to Dodgeland. If it is a benefit, we might go forward and consider a consolidated district. If it's not, then we wouldn't. But it's a prudent idea to probably at least consider it. It would be foolish for us to not consider that as a potential opportunity. The second thing I would say is if we do go forward with a consolidated district, if we don't go forward with a consolidated district, we absolutely need to be able to stand alone. And so that's where the $700,000 comes in. If we do end up becoming a consolidated district, it would take about 2 years for that process to fully take place. There's a lot of planning, a lot of things that would have to take place. If we pass the referendum, and for the first 2 years, we would then increase our taxes from 3.9 million to 4.6 for the first 2 years. The final 2 years of that referendum would be null and void. And so the reason for that is because you're bringing two districts together. There's a lot of financial stuff going on there. And there's an entire voting group that has now come into play that did not have an opportunity to weigh in on our $700,000 referendum. And so essentially, we would then make a decision at that time, look at all the things, and decide if we need to ask the public for additional funds or if we could continue to operate without. So in that sense, it's kind of like it could be a 2-year referendum that we're asking, or it could be a 4-year.
I would also add that at our last board meeting, I believe we did approve a feasibility study to look at the financials between Eustisford and Dodge and to see if it makes sense even financially before we consider
Yes.
the other option. So that ball has been rolling already of whether that makes sense.
We work with Robert W. Baird, and so we will be engaging with them to do that financial study and ultimately make a determination from a financial picture if that's a good idea. The best thing for us would be thinking about all this stuff would be for everyone to open enroll to Dodgeland. We would love that. That I can guarantee you is a good idea.
What are the projections for student numbers, in the future, barring not without Eustisford, but where are we now with enrollment? What are the projection enrollments? Because obviously in this country now we have a lack of children being born. And, what are their projections for student numbers?
Great question. Well, some straight away, the enrollment, we have about 675 students right now in Dodgeland. We're projecting into all of these numbers about 5 students less each year. So for the next 4 years, our projection is 4 years from now, we'd have 20 less students. Now, there are some ideas and some things that we've been thinking about. We haven't brought yet to the board level, but there are some things that we're thinking about to try to attract additional students as well as retain the ones that we have that hopefully either sustain or increase. This certainly puts us on a really good path to do some of the things that we would like to consider because we would be sustaining the programming that we have and putting ourselves in a better position than to market ourselves a little bit. I do have some really great information though to your other comment. Just had an opportunity to talk with our state economist, and actually we have some good movement in our state of people that are actually coming into our state. So now we're a little bit landlocked to some degree here. I don't know what that's going to do to us in Juneau, but at least from a state perspective, we're actually one of the highlights across the country for some migration in, which is a positive thing. And so being surrounded by states that are migration out, Minnesota and Illinois, that puts us in a good position. So those are some questions I think for the Economic Development Board, the county, things like that. Let's create some opportunities here to bring in some families and some more folks that obviously are coming into our state.
Todd, can I just ask,
Yes.
is there a question?
Nope.
Okay. For anyone who doesn't know, my name's Alyssa Goldman. I'm one of the school board members. Happily and feel honored to be voted in for the Juneau Oak Grove specific geographic area. But I think another point that I personally, as a board member, want to make sure you guys as community members understand is how fiscally responsible the district has been over time, and how difficult the decisions to make the budgetary cuts have been over the last few years. I think that there's a misconception that by being able to make budgetary cuts, there must have been like fat to trim. And I would like to say from my perspective as one single board member, that's not necessarily the case. They're impossible, challenging decisions to cut programs that eventually hurt kids and they hurt our community. And so those are decisions that we've made out of the necessity of being fiscally responsible, but not necessarily taking programs away that weren't otherwise needed. And secondly, I think the fact that we haven't gone to an operational referendum, and Todd, you can take that point probably better than I can, serves as a testament to Dodgeland's long-term fiscal responsibility, because we are one of very few districts in the state, that percentage that had not gone to an operational referendum because of how historically fiscally responsible the district has been with its money. If you want to talk a little bit about that point.
Absolutely. I mean, since 1993, about 87% of districts across our state have had to go and ask for a referendum because just the way the financing system is designed. And when I actually interviewed for this position, that was one of the questions that I'd asked the board. I did my homework and I asked, I can't find any other time that you've gone to operational referendum other than just this last spring that failed. Is that true? And they were like, yeah, that's true. And I said, I'm absolutely stunned. I'm shocked. That just doesn't exist. I mean, to be in a very small, unique space where there's no one that it hasn't gone. And not only that, there are many districts across our state that have gone to operational referendum multiple times over and over. And so it's just one of those things that I think is a testament to the overall, not to say that there haven't been decisions over time that maybe have frustrated members of the community, staff members, whatever. Sometimes there are decisions that boards, administration make that are difficult or maybe even sometimes it's not the right decision. I'm not saying that. Those things are going to happen. We're only human. But if you look at it from a 30,000-foot view and you look at it over time, I think it's a true testament to the Dodgeland School District, the board, the administration that's been in place that has managed the district from a financial picture very, very, very well. And it's certainly something that I think is a point of pride, something that everyone should feel good about and feel proud of. We wouldn't be asking for this money if we didn't need it. And nobody likes to pay more in taxes, you know, but at the same time, we also have some great value that's there within the school district. And so we're about kids, so.
How current are the assessments in the other communities? Juneau's always stayed pretty much on top, and we just recently had a reassessment of property, which translates to your next tax gain and what have you. How current are the other communities? I know townships and smaller villages are a little reluctant to go out and bring somebody in to do a reappraisal or a reassessment of their community. Are we lacking dollars coming in from other segments of our district here?
So the way that we operate in terms of setting our tax levy, we use equalized value through the Department of Revenue. So that's one of the things I know that just this year happened in a number of our communities within Dodgeland, where there was a reassessment. And one of the things I told everybody is so the reassessment, you may have looked at a reassessment. I know I've talked to some property owners and some community members here. They said, my property went 100%. But from Dodgeland picture, that $620 million last year, that money was about 590 or something. Whatever the balance would be, the increase. So property values across the entire system for Dodgeland, the total, increased about 6.5%. I might be off by 1% or something, or 0.5%, but we'll say 6.5. That's way different than some of the property owners that I talked to that said, my property was reassessed and it went up 100%. And so and the reason for that is because we use the equalized value that is determined by the Department of Revenue. So even though that assessment maybe didn't take place for 5 or 6 years, the Department of Revenue knows what's going on and they've been tracking that the whole time. And so it is boiled into the tax rate. The other thing is, I would say if anybody goes home and starts calculating their tax rates and all those kinds of things, be careful with that, because we essentially set what those rates are and we turn those over to the municipalities, and then the municipalities ultimately set the tax rate inside. So if you just do the math and things like that, you're going to say, well, my mill rate's 8%. Well, that's because there was changes that were made within the municipality. So anyway.
Yeah, nothing more. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. If you have any other questions, if I walk out of here and you've got questions and things, where are you going to go? Yes, the QR code. Yes, exactly. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And if anybody has any other questions, also I'm at the Village Garden on Tuesday morning, so feel free to stop by and say hi and ask a question. Have a cup of coffee. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Approved payments of bills, checks for $678,870.64. Electronic transfers for $208,748.66. Is there a motion to approve the payment of bills? Motion by Chapman, second by Justman. Any further discussion, questions, or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Chapman.
Aye.
Justman.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Foodie. Aye. Lee.
Aye.
Runge.
Aye.
Payment of bills have been approved. Reports of officials. That was gonna be my report about how we lost our former city attorney. Dan Posner was our city attorney, as Mac alluded to, for many, many years until he became a judge, and then Joe Shasha, his partner, took it over. And like go on record as his board offering their deepest sympathy to his wife Bonnie and their 3 children. That was a credit to know him and work with him. I have nothing else to report. Clerk Treasurer, have anything to report tonight?
Audit starts on Monday. Woohoo.
Moving on, rent reports. Any questions on the building permit reports, police department report, Juneau Fire and Rescue report, Juneau EMS report? Moving on, reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We have our own librarian, our library director, Connie.
We have more numbers for you. Yay.
So we live for it, Connie.
It's just our statistical recap of 2025. I'm finalizing the state report to the Department of Public Instruction this week. And so I just wanted to share some of the numbers from the past year with you. I won't go into a lot of detail with this, but I will highlight a few things. Our physical circulation, so that's items that are actually physical objects that got checked out of the library, increased compared to last year. We had 26,862 items that were checked out. If we combine that with our digital circulation, that brings that number up to 32,323, which is still an increase over last year. That's important because that figure is what is used to calculate the money that we get back from the counties that we serve. So Juneau has, the public library has 1,782 card holders. About 1,200 of those, give or take, are from the city, and then 555 of those are from the rural areas that surround Juneau. And those are counted as non-resident card holders that choose to make Juneau their home library. If they don't have a home library where they live, we then get money back from the county based on the services we provide. And that number is determined by our budget divided by how many circulations we have. And then that magical number gets multiplied by how many times those non-resident people check out items from the library. So if we can keep that number growing and serve those populations outside of the city, we also get a little bit more funding back from Dodge County and any other county that actually touches our border, which would be Washington, Columbia, Fond du Lac, Jefferson. We don't get a lot of those checkouts, but the ones that we do, we get money back from those counties besides definition. So if we move down to the third bar there, that's comparing physical versus digital. There's a lot of numbers there, but the reason I included is because people are looking for digital content as well as physical materials to check out. Our digital circulation is just up just below 5,500. So that includes digital materials that you can get through our partnership with a statewide system, which is called Overdrive or Libby. And then we also provide a local digital collection through Hoopla. That demand is increasing, and it's mostly for e-audiobooks, so people want to listen to stuff, okay? And I'm just going to share this statistic with you because that helps determine, are we going to buy some audiobooks on CD if people are listening to e-audio, right? So it helps me plan budget and where to spend money if I know people are listening in their car, they no longer have a CD player in their car. I don't think you do anymore, nobody does, right? So then why would we spend budget on audio CDs if we can get some of that content digitally? So that helps fluctuate where we spend dollars for the collection development. That's just one example. I will say, if you look at the last circle on there, the 96% of all of the children's material that we checked out, 96% of it is still physical materials. And so that means I'm not going to spend money purchasing digital content for kids when they want the actual book. Parents want the actual book. They want the actual science technology kit that they can check out. Further down, just revenue sources. You guys obviously know this because you do the budget. About 2/3 of our budget comes from the levy that you guys provide, and then the other 25 to 30% comes from that county reimbursement. And then the library board also has some grants and donations that it use annually to fund programs and services. Let's see. We had just over 17,000 visitors through the library doors in 2025. We have that on a counter to the door, so we can track that pretty accurately. Doing my glasses up because I can't read them. We also provide things besides in-person programs and checking out materials. And those things are like self-guided enrichment activities for kids. We obviously have the summer reading challenge. We have Wi-Fi access and public computers. And then we do provide reference services for people who have certain questions or need help working certain devices. We helped a fair amount of people who have job applications online and work through the Wisconsin unemployment network and things like that. And then public programs down at the bottom, we did 169 in-person programs for people with an attendance of just over 2,000. 83 of those programs were children, 53 were adults, and then we had 33 all ages programs throughout all of last year. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Connie today? Thank you, Connie.
I will leave our February, March calendar back here if anyone wants as well.
Information.
Okay. So, at our meeting, we had a basically information presentation from Adam Reschel from Bayer Financial on what TID districts are. Essentially, he came in last night, same presentation that we had. So reason we, well, besides the fact that we really didn't know what it was, the reason we had it is because of the apartments that are proposed to be built up on Home Road. Carl Huth, the guy that owns that, he came in during that meeting. He wants to build 2 12-unit apartment buildings, and he's looking for some possible incentives from a TID district to build those apartments. I can't speak for everybody on that committee, but before that meeting with Baird, I didn't really know what a TID district was. I tried to read about it. I didn't know. So basically, from the people that were here last night, know that it's kind of like it puts money into this TID and can be used for projects that are set up in the TID, whether it be infrastructure or there's also something that you can do improvements to around the TID district up to like a half mile around the boundary. Once again, I'm not the best at explaining this, but that's why we had Adam in last night. So we have to figure out like the incentives for anyone that's gonna be like for projects in the TID. We didn't set anything up yet. We're kind of waiting for the presentation for the city council, so everybody kind of saw what the TID all involves. So we didn't set anything up. Carl is gonna be bringing in plans for the 12-unit apartments. I don't know if he's coming in next month or not, but he will be bringing them in. I believe that they're tearing them down within the next month. So I think he's looking at getting going on this pretty soon. So we're gonna have to discuss what possible incentives we can put in there if we start the TID. Besides that, that was pretty much the meeting.
I think Adam did a little more in depth with the
Very
plan
much so.
commission and having the one developer there was also beneficial, where they played question and answer there too as well. So. Okay, any questions for Troy? Not, we'll move on to Finance Committee. Richard.
We didn't have a meeting this last month.
We did have a personnel meeting.
Yeah.
I can do it. So we met and we reviewed and discussed updates to the rec director job description and title. We reviewed the proposed description of the rec program coordinator position. One minor change was noted to include working with all area schools. Committee also discussed concerns about who will oversee this position and if changes to the makeup of the rec committee should be considered. And we reviewed and discussed posting of the rec director job position. that was pretty much it. That was our whole discussion, really.
Any questions? Moving on, then we have a resolution.
So resolution 612025, approved job description for recreation program coordinator. Whereas the personnel committee and the recreation committee have reviewed the job description and title for the recreation director. And whereas the personnel committee and the recreation committee recommend renaming the recreation director position to recreation program coordinator. And whereas the personnel committee and the recreation committee recommend to approve the job description as shown in Exhibit A. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Juneau accepts the aforementioned recommendation passed by the Common Council of the City of Juneau this 10th day of February 2026. I move for passage of this position.
I'll second that.
Motion by Chapman, second by Foodie. Further discussion?
Another change along with the ones that Bob said for the position, the reason we wanted to change it to coordinator is we want people that are going to apply for this position to understand it's not all administrative, which is what director kind of means. We want them to know that they're gonna be coordinating programs, which is the core of recreation.
I'm glad you explained that because I couldn't tell these two guys why we were changing it because the director coordinator to me kind of came out of the same envelope. So,
I think it's been something in the past that maybe gave misinformation to the applicants that they thought they're gonna be director administrating. We want them to focus on programs, coordinating programs.
any other questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Chapman,
Aye.
Foodie,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Trussman,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Rungy.
Aye.
Resolution 61, 2025 is passed. Any other questions for the people on personnel? Seeing none, we'll move on. Public safety,
Public safety did not meet.
public works.
Yeah, Public Works, we did meet, and we had a few things, we had some discussions about some items, and the big one was start out with because our salt truck is getting pretty old, and it's from 2004, and it's showing its age, especially from salting the streets and plowing all the time, and it's one of the things we're gonna have to start looking at in the very near future to replace, probably within a year or two. And so, Joel's gonna be looking into getting some pricing, and he looked at, 150 to 175 would be a minimum replacement cost, and I think it's gonna be substantially more than that to get a truck of that size and with up, with new plow on it, that's made for it and everything else. So it's something that we're gonna have to keep in mind and consider, because we have to keep the streets plowed and salted. And there's no other truck that we have that can do that. And they put a lot of money into that truck because it's breaking down. I think it was, towed in 3 times this year. 2 for sure, but I thought it was 3, but yeah. That also brought us the long-term replacement schedule for public works equipment. And somehow, if we can work in some way to start setting up contingencies like they used to do many years ago, so that we don't have to borrow large amounts of money all the time. Every time we want to place a car or a truck or something, start setting some money aside. And so, it's just something we're going to keep looking at and discussing. One of the constituents had mentioned that the flag light in the cemetery has been out again, and we have decided, due to the poor electrical wiring there, I guess, and that instead of trying to make it completely electric, he's going to get a flag, that's solar for the top of the flag, and
some really nice ones out there, and I don't even know if I was gonna ask if he bought one or not yet, but the cost of that will be taken out of the cemetery fund. We talked about, we in the past talked about fluoride in the water. Federal guidelines are now talking about trying to get people to take fluoride out of the water. And that's gonna be a further discussion over time, if that works out or not. Joe had talked about some of the large oak trees in the cemetery that they had to take down. They were just dead. And obviously for aesthetic purposes and safety that they were taken down, so. And they're, along with the utilities, we're looking to start to send some kind of funding or something for the replacement of trees in the city. We've lost a lot of trees. And so they're gonna, they wanna start replacing some trees and get some decent size, not ones that are 2 foot high. And, planted, some of the ones that they removed. And really, the salt waste was still good. So that's good for everybody, and they had trouble with the convenience center cooler, and that's been fixed. And I guess we talked about also the TID. The mayor brought up the TID district on the north end of the part of the city, and we had that last night here. So besides that was about it. Anybody have any questions?
Moving on. Oh, CDA, we did not have a meeting. Recreation Committee, we did.
Bob talked about the job description change that we made, and also now I guess that the position's been approved, we can post that. And we had a very good turnout at the Dodgeland basketball tournament. It was very, very cold, and because of that, I guess Palmyra tournament was canceled. So we hosted them. We opened up another gym and had the Palmyra basketball tournament here. So it's kind of fun working the front door and getting to meet lots of people.
I got to push them out. Picked up garbage in the stands.
That's all I have. Oh, the resolution then that I have. I was not aware of the wage step, so to correct that, we have an amended resolution 60/2025, approved Gail Ambler to step in as interim recreation director. Whereas the recreation committee has reviewed the need to hire an interim for the recreation director, and whereas the recreation committee recognizes the responsibilities be limited to assisting in 2 tournaments and opening and closing of the community center. Whereas the recreation committee recommends hiring Gail at her current wage of $14.91 per hour to step in as interim recreation director effective January 5th, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Juneau accepts the aforementioned recommendation this 13th day of January. It should actually be amended to the 10th day of February 2026. I recommend approval of the amended resolution 60/2025. In hindsight now, but
Motion by Foodie, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Justman. Any further discussion? I think City of Juneau should be very thankful to have somebody like Gail Ambler that seems to fill the gap anytime we have a vacancy, and within the last 10 years, that's been quite often as far as our recreation program. Also, she's an interim custodian, taking care of many of our park buildings. She's doing the floors down in the community center, and she can't get enough of it. But she's on Social Security, so she's got to watch what she receives for wages. That's why this is her janitorial wage that's just being used for her interim rec position. So, but yeah, I think the City of Juneau should, whenever you're around her, offer your thanks for everything that she does for the City of Juneau, because she's been here for decades and it's just a world of help.
She runs things like the back of her hand.
Great idea. Okay. We had a motion, a second, we take a roll vote, please.
Foodie,
Aye.
Justman,
Aye.
Chapman,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Rungy.
Aye.
Resolution 60, 2025 is passed. Nothing else for rec, Jen?
No, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Utility Commission. Douglas.
Yeah, utility, the accountant was absent, so we didn't get a report there. Electrical superintendent. We discussed the possibility of a hot box assembly to be added to the back trailer, and that was passed. We're gonna add a hot box for the back trailer, so it's operational in the winter time. They'll warm up the ground as they're getting the dirt out of there. Discussed the possibility to approve resolution authorizing borrowing from WPPI Energy for industrial substation expansion. There was no action taken. It'll be brought up at the next meeting. Projects update, finished LED conversion. The entire city is now LED. Secondary fault on Highland Street, open neutral fault, temporary fix right away, fix the next day. Customer was asked for compensation. Were they compensated on that? No.
I'm not aware of it. I don't
Okay.
think so. They were actually denied.
Okay. Protected by the PSC due to issue not caused by staff negligence. GOAB switch failed on Goose Trail. Needed it for operational. ATC North Substation was taken offline last week for ATC to finish the rebuild. Through Juneau, transferring our distribution to polls this week. Added new service for ATC, the FAA lighting. AC engineer inspected North Substation while offline. Need to replace recloser batteries. North Substation was back online. Doing the year-end closeouts with Open Point and rectifying inventory. Presented by MEUW Conference on Mutual Aid, WPPI was not awarded the ETC transmission bid. WPPI Regional Dinner will be held in Okauchee on 6/17. Wastewater Superintendent. Review discussed the possibility to approve the purchase from WPP Loan Contingency. Requested purchases, flagpole, a walk behind air and snow blower, some wiring for the John Deere tractor, projects update, submitted report to DNR that we flushed 1,951,027 gallons of water in 2025, down from 2.1 million in 2024. Fighting the cold weather, especially with freeze ups of the WAS line and digester aerators have had issues with wash press failing on high torque. Manufacturer suggests changing the setting. Working on lowering chlorine further. We'll continue to monitor customer complaints. Met with Applied Technologies to discuss the desired layout for the UV system, and they'll begin drawings on that. We have a signed sewer cleaning contract with Aqualis, and would like to view all sewer laterals on East Center Street prior to the upcoming repaving projects. Found a 2025 F-250 XL on lot to purchase that was within budget. We'll be writing our own lock and tag out manual, and that's about it.
Any questions for Doug? Just for general information, that GOAB, that's a gang operated switch.
Oh, okay, I was kind of wondering what that was.
That's right. Yeah. It just makes all phases connect at the same time. It's gang operated. That's what the GOAB stands for. Then the other thing you mentioned something about, you got wiring up for a John Deere tractor. Wasn't it a wing or what was that for John Deere?
Well, I think they got it spelled right. I got VIRNIG, so I didn't know if that was supposed to be wiring or what's a verb. They got
A veer or
A Veering?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a brand?
I don't know what, I
I don't know if it's a brand, but I thought it was a plow.
for the John Deere tractor.
Yeah,
we
I
approve
think that's
it. Otherwise, you covered it all, Doug.
All right.
Would that be a V-wing plow then?
I don't remember what they were talking about.
Probably a V-wing plow.
It just isn't spelled right or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce stuff when it's spelled right. So it's really bad when it ain't.
Very good report.
All right.
Any questions for Doug or Dick? Seeing none, we got any old business name? New business? Approve provincial licenses for 45 days, there are none. Approve regular bartender's license for 2025, expires June 30th, 2026. Bryce Tolles and Courtney Golak. Motion to approve those two. Motion by Chapman,
I'll second.
second by Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. No other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Rungy, second by Chapman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.